The downtown Phoenix bus station bustled with afternoon travelers when Officer Derek Matthews spotted the homeless man sleeping on a bench near Platform 7. The man's weathered face was partially hidden beneath a tattered baseball cap, and beside him sat a large military duffel bag, faded green canvas covered in stains and patches. Officer Matthews had been on the force for 3 years and prided himself on keeping the station clean and orderly for paying passengers. Before we continue, I want to know which country you're watching from right now. Drop your country's name in the comments below. Sir, you need to move along, Matthews said, nudging the man's worn boot with his foot. This isn't a shelter. There are proper facilities for people in your situation. The man stirred slowly, his movement stiff and deliberate. When he opened his eyes, Matthews noticed they were sharp and clear, not glazed with substances like he'd expected. The man appeared to be in his early 70s, his gray beard neatly trimmed despite his circumstances. Just resting a moment, officer, the man said quietly, his voice gravelly but measured. I'll be moving on. That's what they all say. Matthews glanced at the duffel bag with suspicion. In his experience, homeless individuals often carried stolen goods or contraband. What's in the bag? Personal belongings, the man replied, sitting up straighter. His posture, Matthews noticed, was unusually rigid for someone living on the streets. By now, several other officers had gathered, including Officer Jessica Torres, a 10-year veteran of the force, and Sergeant Bradley Cooper. A small crowd of travelers had stopped to watch, phones already recording. Matthews felt his authority being tested in front of an audience. I'm going to need you to open that bag, sir, Matthews said, his voice harder now. We've had reports of theft in this station. Officer, I haven't stolen anything, the man said, his hand moving protectively toward the duffel. These are just my things. My life. Then you won't mind showing us. Matthews reached for the bag. The man's hand shot out, gripping Matthews' wrist with surprising strength. Please, the man said, and something in his voice made Matthews pause. Don't. But Sergeant Cooper had already grabbed the other end of the duffel. If you've got nothing to hide, this won't be a problem. We can do this easy or hard. The crowd had grown larger. Matthews felt the pressure of all those cameras, all those eyes watching. He'd crossed a line, he knew, but backing down now would make him look weak. He pulled the bag away from the man, who seemed to deflate, his shoulders sagging in defeat. Let's see what we've got here, Matthews said loudly, unzipping the bag with dramatic flair for the crowd. He wanted to make an example, to show that vagrants couldn't just camp out in his station. His hand reached into the bag. If you're feeling this tension, hit that like button, because what happens next will leave everyone speechless. The first thing Matthews pulled out was a folded American flag, the kind given to families at military funerals. It was pristine despite the worn bag, carefully maintained. His hand slowed. The next item was a leather-bound photo album, then medals in small cases, then pressed uniform pieces in plastic protective covers. Officer Torres stepped closer, her expression changing. Derek, stop! But Matthews had already pulled out the uniform jacket. It was old but immaculately preserved, and there on the shoulders were the stars, 4 of them. The insignia of a full general in the United States Army. The bus station went absolutely silent. Matthews felt his blood turn cold as he stared at what he was holding. This wasn't just any uniform. This was the dress uniform of one of the highest-ranking officers in the military. Sergeant Cooper grabbed the photo album and opened it. His face went white. Oh my God, he whispered. Inside were photos spanning decades. A young soldier in Vietnam. The same man shaking hands with presidents, receiving medals, commanding troops, standing in front of the Pentagon. Officer Torres pulled out her phone with shaking hands and searched something. Her eyes went wide. General William Harrison. Retired 4-star general, served 42 years, commanded forces in Desert Storm. He's a legend. Matthews looked at the man still sitting on the bench, who was now staring at his hands. Sir, are you General Harrison? The man nodded slowly. I was once. Now I'm just Bill. Just a man who lost his way after his wife died 2 years ago. Lost the house, lost my purpose, lost everything that tied me to who I used to be. But sir, Torres said, kneeling beside him with obvious respect, you're a 4-star general. You have benefits, resources, people who would help. I know, General Harrison said quietly, but when you spend 40 years leading men, making decisions that send people into danger, carrying the weight of all those who didn't come home. When that's over and the woman who kept you human is gone, sometimes you don't know how to ask for help. Sometimes you just disappear. Matthews felt sick. He'd been so quick to judge, so eager to flex his authority. He looked at the contents of the bag now scattered across the bench. A lifetime of service reduced to memories in a duffel bag. The flag had belonged to the general's son, Torres discovered, killed in action in Iraq in 2004. The medals represented acts of valor spanning 4 decades. The photos showed a man who'd served under 6 presidents. "Sir, I'm so deeply sorry," Matthews said, his voice breaking. "I had no right." "You were doing your job," Harrison said, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I understand how I look, what I've become." "No, sir," Sergeant Cooper said firmly. "You're a 4-star general of the United States Army. That doesn't change because life knocked you down." What happened next spread across social media within hours. The Phoenix Police Department didn't try to hide the incident. Instead, they made it a catalyst for change. Officer Matthews personally escorted General Harrison to the VA, where they fast-tracked him into housing and connected him with veteran mental health services. But more importantly, the department launched a new protocol for interactions with homeless veterans, requiring officers to ask about military service and connect individuals with appropriate resources before taking any enforcement action. The video of Matthews carefully repacking the general's bag, tears streaming down his face as he handled each medal with reverence, went viral. So did the photo of General Harrison, cleaned up and in a new apartment a week later, being visited by Matthews and Torres, who'd taken it upon themselves to ensure he stayed connected and supported. But the most powerful moment came 2 months later, at a Phoenix Police Department ceremony. General Harrison, now in his restored dress uniform for the first time in years, stood before the assembled officers to speak about homelessness among veterans. Officer Matthews stood in the audience, having requested to attend on his day off. "Officer Matthews did something that day that I needed," Harrison told the room. "He saw me. Not the rank, not the uniform in my bag, but the man who had lost his way. His mistake became a moment of grace, a turning point. He could have walked away in shame, but instead he walked with me toward healing." Harrison looked directly at Matthews. "You judged a situation too quickly, son. But you also corrected course the moment you understood. That's what good men do. That's what good officers do." You reminded an old soldier that it's never too late to come home. Matthews approached after the ceremony, and Harrison pulled him into an embrace. "Thank you for being brave enough to admit you were wrong," Harrison whispered. "And thank you for caring enough to make it right." The Phoenix PD now has a division dedicated to veteran outreach, with Harrison serving as a consultant. Officer Matthews leads training sessions on recognizing and assisting homeless veterans. And every week Matthews and Torres have dinner with Harrison, who says those meals are what keep him grounded, what remind him he's not alone. The general's duffel bag still sits in his apartment, but now it's surrounded by photos of his new life, pictures with the officers who became his friends, images from veteran events he now attends, snapshots of the men and women he helps through his new mission of assisting homeless veterans. If this story moved you, please subscribe to this channel. These are the stories that remind us that everyone we meet is carrying a battle we know nothing about, that judgment can be transformed into compassion, and that it's never too late to come home. Share this with someone who needs to remember that our veterans deserve dignity, respect, and second chances. Comment below and tell me, have you ever judged someone only to discover you were completely wrong? Let's learn from these moments together, and remember, behind every homeless person is a story. And behind some of those stories is incredible sacrifice and service. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next Saint.